How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all having a wonderful day. In this week's video, I am making this raised garden bed using metal and tigerwood. Let's get started. Alright, so let's get right into it. This is a SketchUp of the metal components of this design. SketchUp is very handy because it lets you kind of do things to scale and you get a good view of the proportionality of things as well as actually being able to measure the parts. So from here, I actually did modify a little bit, but basically I need 4 pieces of 53.5 inches long running across. The legs are going to be 36 inches and pretty much everything else that's going from front to back are 12 inches with an exception of the top 2 being 14 inches because they're going to be at a miter. Okay, so we have beveled all of the edges that we want to weld together. The purpose of that is the 2 joining forces create a V shape, and that is kind of the area where the welds can puddle up, and it makes kind of the welding process easier. Plus, you get better penetration and a stronger weld overall. So with all of that being completed, we are now ready to begin welding. The melamine board that you see here is kind of like obviously a very DIY thing. It's not something you should use. If you can avoid it, have a proper welding surface like a welding table or something like that. We don't have one today. We know this is not a flat surface, so instead we're using this clamp that has machined bottom and edges, so it's kind of somewhat of a flat surface. And once we kind of clamp everything down in here, we are ready to weld. Now, this is the woodworking channel, right? It's not the welding channel. So why am I introducing welding to you? There are 2 main reasons for it. The first and foremost is I personally find the marriage of wood and metal in projects to be aesthetically very pleasing, and that's why I'm doing this project today. But the second reason is I was really hesitant to get into welding. It seems like a very scary thing to do, and as a woodworker, I wanted to kind of stay in my lane and do that. But I was always curious about, welding and being able to implement metal parts into my projects, and seeing other YouTube woodworkers do welding really gave me the push to kind of pursue that curiosity and try it out to see if it's for me. And so if I, as a very beginner novice person with very little knowledge and a lot of fear of welding, can get into it, I suspect if you're in a similar position, you can get into it as well. So I'm going to give you a very basic, brief, high-level overview of welding. So there are 2 parts to this. One is personal protective equipment. You want to make sure you're wearing everything that you can to cover and protect your skin. So with welding vests, jeans that covers all of your legs and everything. You want to wear shoes that's closed-toed, preferably steel-toed shoes, and you want to wear gloves, and you want to wear your helmet. So you want to wear all of those personal protective equipment. The second thing is follow the instructions on your welder, right? So when you open the flap on your welder, it'll kind of have a chart, and that chart will tell you under what conditions and what your feed speed should be and how much amperage you should use. And in my case, we're using 16 gauge steel, and I'm using 0.035 flux core wire. And given those 2 settings based on my welder in the chart, it tells me that I need to use the settings B2. So the B is kind of like how much amperage it's going to apply, and 2 is the feed speed of the wire. And generally speaking, following the manufacturer's guidance works pretty well. I found those welding results to be pretty decent. But once you get a little bit more experience, you can tweak it to your needs. Okay, so let's get those settings going and start welding. Now, while the paint is drying on the metal, we can work on the wooden parts. I have these decking boards of tigerwood. They are 5.5 inches wide and 7 feet tall. Of course, we don't need it at that length, but we also don't need it at this width either. So this is 5.5 inches, and we need it to be closer to 3.75. Put the two together, and it's going to fit in that, crevice nicely. So we're going to get going on that, and then we can start finishing it with some teak oil, let that dry, and then we can do the installation. As far as actually attaching the wood to the metal frame, we've got these little pieces of metal on each corners, and we've got some holes drilled in here that kind of correspond to the size of the wood piece, and I've got shims down below to give us the appropriate spacing. And all we do is we pre-drill from the back into the wood so that we don't kind of crack the wood in here, because it's very close to the edge. And then we just drive some screws. Alright, so we are outside currently, and what I have here is two window boxes that are 27 inches long, and these two should fit in very nicely within the holder that we created. I've drilled some holes in the bottom for drainage, and I'm adding some weed block fabric down here just so that some of the soil doesn't drain out along with the rain. And then we can go ahead and add some soil to this. Okay, moment of truth. Here we go. Well, it fits. I have to say, I really like how this project came out. I absolutely love tigerwood, the way, the grains really pop once you apply a finish, and the contrasting with the black metal is just fantastic. The reason why I decided to go with this specific design is because this matches my driveway gate, and I kind of wanted the consistency. And the reason I decided to go with the window boxes as an insert is because I want to be able to take this out once winter comes around the corner and continue to grow herbs throughout the winter indoors with artificial lighting. The second reason is it keeps all of the dirt at bay, and they don't come in contact with any of the wood or metal, and that just means everything is going to last a lot longer throughout the years. But really, you can go ahead and do anything you want. You don't have to necessarily use metal. You can obviously make it out of wood, and you just have to beefen up the legs a little bit, and you do want to reinforce at the bottom part as well, because the legs kind of are freestanding here. With just wood, you might not be able to get away with that because it's just not going to be strong enough. But you can absolutely make this out of wood. And for the avid gardener who might be watching this and completely judging me for the lack of lusciousness in here, I guess it's warranted. It takes a while for these guys to grow, and all I have to say is I ran out of time. Well, alright guys, that's all for me today. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please be sure to click the like button below. Consider subscribing to my channel if you're not a subscriber already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.